There is no doubt that each Harry Potter film is nothing short of magical. The extraordinary vision, casting, score, practical and visual effects, set design or set pieces. J.K. Rowling's iconic 7-part story is one of the rare examples of an amazing movie series. However, yet another technical aspect of this franchise is, in my opinion, not praised enough, that being its magical editing. The last 4 installments of the saga, The Order of the Phoenix, The Half-Blood Prince, and the both parts of the Deathly Hallows were directed by one person, David Yates, and they were edited by one person as well, Mark Day. And during one of my many rewatches of those films, as I am a notorious Potter fan, I noticed a specific stylistic trait of Mark Day's editing that, as time and my rewatches went by, I grew to respect and admire more and more. It's all about presenting movement from a point A to point B of a character in a scene. Mark Day has a rather unusual way of putting it together. To illustrate it in an easier way, let's watch a few examples, shall we? The Deathly Hallows, Part 1. The infamous scene at the Malfoy's Manor. This editing signature of Mark Day's happens right here. Noticed anything unusual? Let's stop here for a moment. In this story beat, we are presented with a simple task that Harry and Ron get from Dobby.
Who gets his wand?
The next shot we see is a look at Harry and Ron from Dobby's perspective, just before they are about to take the Wormtail's wand, but what we get instead of them doing so is this. The whole sequence of taking the wand has been omitted as we follow Ron and Harry up the stairs. Nevertheless, we still are perfectly clear about what happened. Mark Day has just skipped a vital part of a story beat, at the same time fulfilling it, and keeping the action engaging. Another example, from The Order of the Phoenix this time. Harry, Ron and Hermione are at Hagrid's shack. They wanted to see him because he was away for quite a long time and they were worried. Before Hagrid delivers the famous "There's a storm coming," editor Mark Day introduces visual tension by using a dolly shot of the window and dust rumbling around the floor because of the strong wind outside. Prior to that shot, Hagrid was sitting by the table with Harry, Ron and Hermione, yet after the shot of the floor, he is already standing by the window and says the line.
There's a storm coming, Harry.
And it makes sense to the audience, since in the last shot of him, he looked in the direction of the window. Or another example. In one of the Half-Blood Prince opening scenes, Narcissa Malfoy and Bellatrix Lestrange pay a visit to Severus Snape's home. Narcissa wants him to promise to help her son, Draco, in a difficult task that he is to complete, in case if it would be too demanding of him. Bellatrix, however, is skeptical to the idea of Severus being involved in all of this from the start. Therefore, when Snape is not willing to pledge anything, she pushes him to make the unbreakable vow to Narcissa. Her motivation is mostly to put Snape off in the first place. The unbreakable vow is serious business in the wizarding world after all. And partly this is why Snape agreeing on making it is such a shocker for both Bellatrix and Narcissa.
Take out your wand.
At this moment in the scene, editor Mark Day decides to do his magic trick again. In the take right before Snape makes the unbreakable vow to Narcissa, we see Narcissa and Bellatrix in front of a mirror. What catches the viewer's eye is Bellatrix's sudden movement in the slightly blurred background, as she gazes at Snape with utter surprise. And the very next shot is a close-up of Snape's and Narcissa's arms grabbing to make the vow. Mark Day doesn't decide to show us the whole process of them getting ready for the magical operation, but rather swiftly takes us a bit further in time to the most crucial moment of the scene. Theoretically, it's not correct time-wisely, but at the same time, it makes perfect visual sense for the viewer. And it also adds up to the mysterious and dreamy air of the scene. Or another example. Or another example. Or another. If you don't feel convinced yet, maybe let's compare the editing of another big blockbuster series, the MCU. This is the hilarious primary school scene from Ant-Man and the Wasp, in which Scott Lang's suit gets faulty, what translates into him sneaking around the primary school while being the size of a baby. At some point, he manages to find an empty classroom to hide from the school kids or the teacher. He sees the cupboard and goes towards it. The editing of this scene lets us observe every step on Scott's way. And now, simply out of curiosity, let's mess with the editing a little bit here, so you can see the difference clearer. Hypothetically, how would Mark Day edit this Ant-Man and the Wasp scene? I'd bet on something like this. Obviously, I don't mean that is the better way to approach film editing. It's mainly an aesthetic difference. Nevertheless, I wanted you to see that Mark Day's way of putting a simple scene together is different than many other big-name blockbusters around. All in all, movie editing is not only putting different scenes together. Film editor is the person responsible for the film's pacing, humor, energy, balance. Single scenes constitute to character arcs or story chunks, and character arcs or story chunks constitute to the film as a whole. Out of a hot mess that is, for example, 5-hour material for a film, comes out a completely coherent and engaging story that absolutely everyone can experience and comprehend. However, it is also important to remember that smallest, most basic element to the craft of editing, putting two shots next to each other. And editor Mark Day proved, time after time, that he has it mastered. Harry Potter film series is a phenomenon. It is certainly one of the best film series in history, and for many, many reasons. And 50% of its success comes from the little details, just like Mark Day's magical editing. I'd even argue that, just like spells in J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World, film editing is a little bit magical in itself. After all, without the editor, any Harry Potter movie, and any other movie in the entire world in this matter, would only be a few strangely dressed people, pretending to be a few other people who don't even exist. Nox.